Hello, everyone. Welcome to week 11 Cafe Value. You just saw a really weird face of mine. I am completely sober. We saw in the comments the other day, someone asked if we were under the influence. I am not. I still wouldn't pass sobriety tests, but that does not mean I am under the influence. Jason, how's it going?
Good, sober, fairly sober.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Painfully. Say painfully sober.
painfully sober. Yeah, it
Yes.
hurts.
Yes. It hurts, don't it? Get it? Because he missed practice today?
It
Oh!
hurts. It hurts.
All right. For the cafe value here, Blake Bortles, Tyrod Taylor, Kirk Cousins. List them in order. Tell me your favorite color, and then we'll move forward.
Favorite color?
Yeah.
I'm a green guy. Like green, forest green.
Yeah. Okay.
Forest green's a good one
Yeah. Okay.
because that's the color of cafe value.
All right. Yeah. Okay.
I'm just kidding. It's
What's-
great, but let's move on.
What's the order?
For me, it's on FanDuel here. I think Bortles, Cousins, Taylor is how I'd rank them. Cafe value has Bortles, Taylor, Cousins. All three guys are in plus matchups. Bortles is obviously the cheaper of the bunch. Great matchup against Detroit, who are, a dead last defense per Football Outsiders against the pass, nearly a 40% DVOA. Bortles obviously has a couple of good stacking partners. We obviously talked about Julius Thomas. I'm not a big fan of stacking him on FanDuel. I like using Allen Robinson as kind of the primary one, but a lot of upside for Bortles. He's been fairly solid over the last few weeks. I think 2 to 3 touchdowns is certainly a reasonable outcome. So probably just GPPs.
Yeah, and with the really solid amount of quarterbacks that we like this week, are any of these guys cash for you?
Kirk Cousins is cash. I mean, I still like using just Mariota, Luck. I like paying up for Rodgers as well. I think you're going to get them all fairly low ownership, maybe outside of Bortles. Bortles will probably have the higher ownership just because it's like a good matchup, and I'm sure he's going to be talked up quite a bit. Tyrod Taylor, I think, is a pretty good swerve off of Bortles, especially with that rushing upside that he's shown off. Good matchup against Cincinnati. That still seems like people don't realize Cincinnati has been bad. Yeah. So
Bad.
I like Tyrod Taylor. I'm glad he popped up here. I talked about him on the DraftKings quarterback pod. And then Kirk Cousins, 7,600. I think, in terms of a safe option, he's only like 400, 500 cheaper than Luck, though. So it just makes, sense to go that route.
Yep. Down to running back, we really get into some value here. CJ Procise at 4,900, just simply not priced where he needs to be. I'd imagine that ownership gets up there. Cash game for me, what say you?
Yeah, I think so. I think you can plug him in with Le'Veon Bell and save a little bit the running back spot to kind of open things up for wide receiver, tight end. Process, a guy who had 24 touches last week, 280 plus receiving yards in the last 3 games. And Philly has had some struggles with defending pass catching backs. So I think with the relatively healthy team total here at home, Process is really a playable guy in all formats because, regardless of not finding the end zone last week, he was a guy who was still near, 16 FanDuel points.
Mm-hmm. Insert anyone versus San Francisco run game. This week, it's LeGarrette Blount coming off a 3-touchdown game. They're literally playing the league leader in rushing touchdowns. I'd be pretty shocked if he doesn't get at least 1. I'd honestly be pretty shocked if he doesn't get 2. This is going to be an ugly game. Is that where you're at as well?
Yeah, and I think 7,300, I mean, that's a bargain. Like, he should have been priced at 8K.
Yeah.
8K, 8,200. Like, he should have been up there, and he's not. He's going to be chalky. You look at the spread, minus 13, total of 32. I think that's even up closer to 33 now. He's just playable in all formats. I mean, you talked about the multi-touchdown upside that he probably has. 100 yards is certainly there. And I think even if Brady goes for like 250, 3-4 touchdowns, he's still going to be in line for 80 yards and a touchdown. I really think that's his floor this week. And at 7,300, it just makes it that much easier to play.
The interesting thing is, I mean, Patriots, coming off a loss. So that's like Tom, I know we don't do narrative street in empirical forms, but if I've ever seen a player play well when he's mad, it's Tom Brady. And coming off a loss, Patriots are going to roll here, especially against an easy opponent. I just think there's a lot of things saying Patriots aren't going to let up the gas here until it's 45-0, you know?
And they never been a team to just lightly push away an opponent. Like
No.
if you're truly the worst team in the league, they're going to make you know it, and it's how it's going to be
Yeah.
this week. And I think
Yeah.
there's multiple ways you can get exposure to the Pats this week,
Mhm.
and there's another one we'll talk about in a little bit. But he's one of the safer plays, and if you don't want to quite go down to pro size, Blunt Bell, that's probably the most optimal pairing of the week.
Agreed. Another guy here, another Notre Dame receiving back, Theo Riddick, 6,700 against this Jags slow linebacking group. Uh, do you? I was playing around with this yesterday. I want your take on this first. You
Okay.
there?
Yeah, yeah. Fine. Wait for the question.
I don't have a question. I want your take on Theo Riddick first before
Oh,
they
oh,
might.
okay. Good back. I like him. I mean, I think in terms of a guy who, never going to be a guy who's going to get 15 plus rushing carries, but I think 15 touches is all he really needs to do to pay off a price tag like that.
So at 6,700, with upside, even though he's more of a DK play. When you plug him in, do you feel comfortable putting him in there, even though you see the impending doom of David Johnson, Ezekiel Elliott, Le'Veon Bell, all those guys up there? Do you think he has a high enough ceiling to make you feel comfortable with that? Like that's what I was trying to figure out last night.
No, I don't think so for me. I mean,
Hmm.
on FanDuel, he needs the touchdown, and he needs
Yeah, he
probably
really
two.
does.
So we've seen two touchdown games from Riddick. It's happened twice already this year. Could happen in this one. Obviously, we know he's kind of a featured guy in the passing game. But I really do think that you do feel comfortable on PPR sites because if he goes 5 for 80, with 30, 40 rushing yards, it's a solid day on DK.
Yep.
FanDuel, no, it's not.
No,
That sucks.
it's
So
not.
he needs that touchdown to really counter the having the lack of PPR scoring. So you do feel uncomfortable. He's by far the most uncomfortable GPP play.
Yeah, it just doesn't make you feel good when you throw him in. It's not that he's a bad play, he's not. It's just that, especially on the early only slate, you just look at him and you go, "Oh, I can't do this."
In
You
this
know?
week, the early only, we've talked about using Riddick in the past in early onlys because it was a weak amount of backs. But this week, I mean, no, there's not.
Yeah, it's tough. Wide receiver, Dante Moncrief. I mean, this one was pretty obvious when you first look at the slate, 6,500. Just a superb value against Tennessee.
Yeah, I mean, 6,500 is a really nice price. He's going to be a cash game staple for me and even a GPP play. We've been talking about correlation in this game all week, and he's certainly a good value to get exposure to. Tennessee ranks 20th against wide receiver twos, allowing the fifth most FanDuel points to wide receivers this year. So Moncrief's a good play this week. With that team total, I'll be firing away. Much cheaper than Hilton is, and I think he's safer than Hilton. So I like Moncrief and cash.
Agreed. And now, Jeremy Maclin might be out again. Tyreek Hill obviously loaded up on targets the last few games. You looking at him here at 5,400?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, thirteen targets. You can't count on that again. But I think 7 targets could be a milder expectation for him. Obviously, he's found the end zone quite a few times already this season. I mean, certainly more than Macklin has. So, Hill's an interesting GPP play. He's still going to be GPP for me because you look at the Chiefs; they're not a passing attack that you really just go, oh, okay, next man up. We'll toss him in there. So. I think you're going to see a heavy dose of Spencer Ware this week. I think you're going to see a lot of kind of just check down to Travis Kelce. Hill's a decent play at the price, good matchup, but it's definitely just not really cash. It's more of a GPP play.
Yeah, and another kind of weird play. I'm not surprised he popped up. I just don't know if I'm in on him. Jamison Crowder against the Packers. What are you thinking?
So I mean, obviously, I think people are go look at him and go, he's more of a DK play, but he's been a double-digit FanDuel score in the last 5 weeks in all but 2 games this season. So he's actually been very consistent, regardless of injuries around him. Packers secondary has struggled. They were ripped apart by Mariota. They're really bad on the road. Their numbers really jump out at you, kind of fire away. I like Washington. I like Washington as a stack too. So. At that price, 6,300, I think it's relatively safe. I think he's in line for another double-digit fan performance. Obviously, you can never really expect a wide receiver at his size to kind of find the end zone, but he's done it quite a few times already this year.
It's funny that Hill and Crowder pop up in this because they're two players that, from a longer term projection standpoint, I'm having a tough time projecting them because Jamison Crowder looks really good. And, he doesn't profile as an all pro receiver. But I think within the past few years, we've kind of seen a lot of these small guys emerge. I mean, you want to say his production and touchdowns are unsustainable right now, but maybe he's just really good, Like that's certainly a possibility. So I don't mind it as a tournament. I'm still not totally in on it though. Moving to tight end though, this is where I think you can really get your value. Obviously Martellus Bennett, if you look at the cafe value, he's the only one over 11 and he's at 14. So that's a pretty big boost. With no Gronk in there. I think you got to like this one, right?
Yeah, and that's the thing. It doesn't look like Gronk is going to play. I don't know why he would in this type of matchup. On the road at San Francisco, a team they're 2 touchdown favorites against. Bennett's a pretty safe option for me in cash and GPPs this week. He's going to be chalky, coming off a really solid performance against Seattle. And with a 32 team total, I think you're going to be firing away with quite a few Pats options. Not, obviously Blunt's the main play, but I think you can look at Bennett as kind of that secondary piece if you want to get exposure to. I like him a lot. I think he's a fairly safe option. Even if he gets 6 catches for 80 yards, that's hitting value at that price. I'm certainly fine with that. So he doesn't necessarily need that touchdown.
Yeah. Eric Ebron next. Again, we talked about him on DK. I like it. I like it this week.
And he's a good swerve off of Bennett. So, I mean, GPPs, I expect Bennett to suck up a lot of the ownership in that range. 18 targets over his last 2 games, averaging 7.2 when healthy. Ebron, we talked about him on the DK pod for tight ends, and we basically just said, he gets that touchdown. You're talking enormous upside. 6 catches for 80 yards and a score. It's a really nice price here for Ebron, and really a total where we're expecting a lot of production from the Detroit offense.
Mm-hmm. Certainly. I like that. And then the last one here, Kyle Rudolph at 49. Cardinals historically stingy against tight ends the last few years. What do you think about this?
Yeah, I wasn't on Rudolph last week. Rudolph obviously I was on the Vikings at all last week, but has done okay in some tougher matchups, but I'd rather use Ebron or Bennett for a couple hundred more. Kyle Rudolph really not on my radar. And really, his upside is not big enough for me to just kind of swerve down to him. It's really not this week. So Arizona's a tough matchup. I'm not really looking at any real plays in that game.
Yeah, no, I think I tend to agree. Other than I'm playing Sam Bradford in a season-long league and hoping he gets 10 points.
Oof.
10 points. That's all I want.
Take the under.
Yeah. Defenses here. Our projections, looking at Vikings potentially making a step back into prominence here. Chiefs and Rams. What are you looking at here in terms of, do you like these guys? Are they cash? Are they tournament?
Well, it was funny because, you and I talked about Minnesota on the defense pod, and I had to kind of persuade you a little bit about Minnesota. They're cheap, 4,500. It was no surprise that they popped up in cafe value because they've been a team that's been around 5,000 all year long, now dropped 500. The projection hasn't really changed. Arizona is a team that has struggled a little bit on the road. Carson Palmer doesn't look good. They're averaging just 16 points over the last 3 games. So, Minnesota at home, I think this is a reasonable spot to take a chance on them to rebound. in a GPP. The problem with me is that offense really does fail them. The defense is going to be put in bad spots again where they really can't. It's not their fault. It's just going to be they can't make up that difference. So that's the only concern. I rather pivot to the Chiefs in cash games. They're my favorite defense of this week. Double-digit FanDuel points in 5 of 6 games, 6 of the last 7. So, they've been a solid, reliable defense, and now get a turnover-prone Jameis Winston at home. Rams, I like in GPPs. Good run defense there. Obviously, that puts JHI in a tough spot, who has really become the offense over the last few weeks. If they can get out to a little bit of a lead, which is asking a lot with a new quarterback there, but they could be in a spot where the Rams are really sitting pretty in terms of kind of game flow and how they can build, because they've been playing pretty well.
Absolutely. So I think that's kind of what we're looking at there. I'm surprised to see the Rams there. I feel like I'm the only one that ever likes the Rams at anything.
You usually are,
yeah. But it's nice to see that they're up there this week. Is there anything else you want to throw in there before we head out?
No, I mean, I don't think any real key values that missed this week.
This is truly what I'm looking at, like these are the ones I'm on. So I like what the projections have done this week.
Yeah, and I don't think anyone was like inappropriately priced outside of Blunt, which obviously is here. I don't think anyone was kind of I still like Allen Robinson at 72 or 7,300. That's still cheap for him.
Yes. As always, you can check out this article on the site, dailyfantasycafe.com. If you like what we're doing here, give us a like and subscribe. If you don't like what we're doing here, give us a thumbs down and, troll us on Twitter. I guess that's what you do in 2016, right?
Yeah, fire away.
Yeah, shoot off those troll tweets. It's cool. I get it. I am a troll, just in chess rather than fantasy football. So if you ever play me on chess.com and I beat you and I tell you that you belong in the trash, then I'm sorry. So anyhow, we will see you guys in week 12, and good luck this week.